Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'm going to be starting a conference, but everything is good, so thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Brad Speech with Guide Technologies.
Right.
And
Thank
thank
you,
you very much for joining us for our another edition of the Infor XA webinar series from Guide Technologies. Today is a very exciting session. It's really focused on the latest and greatest technology and UI that we have for Infor XA, with a major release coming up here in the next 30 to 60 days. So our session today is really focused on Netlink and the HTML5 interface. Carlos Vila and Rick Altano will be doing the presenting today. And it's just as a reminder, this will be recorded and the link will be sent out in a day or so to everybody in attendance. And everybody is on mute, so please utilize the chat feature or the question feature if you have questions or issues. With that, again, thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Rick Altano.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see a good crowd on this webinar today. We have such exciting news with what's happening in XA. Most of you on the line, I'm looking to who's out there, know me. So you know that we have been waiting a long time to see some of the technology changes that are coming out this year and next year. It's very exciting to finally see some of this coming to fruition. The last few years, they've spent a lot of time, Infor has, working with ION, redoing security, doing a lot of internal work that hasn't affected the users that much. But that's going to be changing dramatically over the next 12 to 24 months, starting literally in a couple of weeks. So I'm just going to dive into this. Carlos is going to be doing an actual product demo of Release 10. We do have Release 10. There are about a half a dozen customers that have already been using this in limited availability, testing it out over the last 6 months. So the affiliate group has also had access to Release 10. So even some of the issues we've had in the past with some of the quality and some of the problems these products came out, I really believe Release 10 is going to be very clean and ready to use very quickly. So to talk about this, I'm very excited. If you guys ever have any questions on something like this, please feel free to call me and I can help fill you in on some of those things. But Infor is going to make a formal announcement of general availability on June 17th. Now that it's not going to be available on June 17th, they're going to give us the date. Originally, it was coming out in mid-June. There have been, like a lot of us in our own companies lately, there have been a number of COVID issues amongst the development team. So it might be pushed back a week or so, but we are still very much on time for this summer's Release 10. Release 10 is a new user experience. Many of us are still on green screens. Many more of us are on PowerLink or Power Architecture. This is really the HTML, the browser interface that moves XA to that level. So one of the biggest impacts for those of you that have multiple plants or have locations away from where your iSeries is going to be speed. If you try to use PowerLink over the web, it's a dog. I mean, it's powerful. It does a lot of neat stuff. But using it over the web is really difficult when you have remote locations. And that's been a major issue for XA for a while. This is going to solve that. The only thing it's going to need is a browser. You're going to be able to run this from any location, including your home, on your phone, on your pad, wherever you want to be. As long as you have security and you're set up on your system, you're ready to go. So it will be fully XML integrated as everything moves over to System Link. It is standardized across the Infor look and feel using all of the Infor Operating Services capabilities. It is fully functional for the cloud without additional servers and functions that you need if you're running Java. And more importantly, I'm going to show you this, it's simple. Everything literally is a single sign-on, and I will show you very specifically what that means. So before I get started, some of you have seen this. If you've watched any of my presentations before, this is the roadmap. We are in summer right now, June 2021. Release 10 is coming out on schedule. This has been dated this way since last year. So we are on schedule, on time. And then release 11 is scheduled for the latter part of next year. These two releases are major releases. And if we're not sitting on release 9, preferably 9.2.2 right now, you really need to make sure you have a plan in place to move this stuff forward. You're going to want to have these releases. It's very, very powerful. Release 10 is mostly a client release, meaning that if you're running 9.2.2, you're running most of the file structures, the programming structures of XA. This is going to be mostly a release that upgrades HTML, upgrades Netlink. So it's going to be affecting the client side of the business. What that means is you're not going to have to wait 6 months or 12 months for other people to work out bugs and solve problems. The system isn't changing as much as the interface. So it's going to be available very quickly to a mass number of our customers. Release 11 next year is going to be a complete rewrite of all the inventory transactions. Huge, the biggest release in XA's history. And you can go back through all of our different companies that's owned us through the years. That is going to be another very exciting release. So let's get on to this and talk about this so you can know what's happening right now. This, of course, are the 3 standard interfaces for XA today. Notice there is not a green screen. PowerLink is the most common out there today. It is the application that is Java-based. You've been using it for years. Netlink is the HTML interface, and then, of course, SystemLink is the XML that's running behind these tools. Now, I'm showing you the traditional Netlink interface on this screen, but let's take a look at another option. This is the similar card that you're used to seeing on the left. On the right is the System on Workspace Anywhere, Siwa. This is one of the things that really makes us powerful. You guys may not have this on your box, but you get it for free. You have to talk to your account executive. They have to put in an Infor order form, but you get this tool. And this tool opens up all the simplicity and all the functions that I'm talking about when it comes to Netlink. Notice over here on the left-hand side, I am on the engineering EPDM card, enterprise item site, item revision. This looks completely different. This is an Explorer type interface. But notice under EPDM, I have enterprise item site revision. It's the same objects, just displayed to you slightly different. I now, though, have favorites. So I don't have to bounce from card to card to find my objects. I can put them all in one spot. I can search for them, and I can look at spool files and jobs as a user. When I look at the spool file, it's a formatted spool file. Not the way it looks under green screen. It's a nice little format. So this is the front end. By the way, this little inquiry box up here is extremely important too, and I will show you that coming up in my next slide. So here's the close-up. Here is the System on Workspace Anywhere. Now it's important to understand that this is not a part of Ion or iOS. It is following the homepage logic of what Infor is doing. But many of you aren't ready yet to go to iOS or go to the Ion package. For those of you that are, this only gets more powerful. I'm going to be concentrating today on just showing you what's available just inside of XA. So if you are just running XA without Ion, this still works. This is the way to get into Netlink right now. Now, it's not a real easy install. Just a little note over here. You're probably going to want some assistance, but talk to us about how to do that, and we can move forward with all those things. So here it is. Here's the item revision. Just like if you're in Netlink, it's going to open up a list view. If you click on something on the list view, it opens up the card. These are standard Netlink cards. So this is simply a different front end. You don't go through the object screen like you do in PowerLink. You go through this Explorer screen. But there's a couple of things that I want to point out. So yeah, it starts out just by clicking the object and it opens it up. All your cards look exactly the same. But notice, if I'm in Siwa, I have multiple windows open. That's not something you've traditionally been able to do in some of the Netlink functions. So I can open up all the multiple windows just like I could in PowerLink. So in this case, I'm looking at an item revision screen I have item warehouses open. I have a couple other things open that I'm going to show you in a minute. But I can bounce then from window to window. Now notice something else though that's up here, and this is really cool. I have both the green screen capability, including your custom code that can be called from this screen, and it comes up under Netlink. So it's HTML. You don't have to do anything except load it into Siwa. So it's very powerful. And there are some of you that might be in IT that are looking at the screen in the top right. Notice it's an IBM screen. It is a command line, something you've never been able to do in Netlink also. Now, of course, all these things are secured. You have to have access to those things. But from one sign-on, you have a complete access into all of IDF, anything left over in green screen, whether it's an old Infor product. This happens to be maintaining shipment, pick, pack, and ship. We know where that, we're still using green screen in some of those areas. And this happens to be the IBM command line. So all from the single sign-on. It's very exciting, very neat to go through. So like I said, it's been in limited edition for 6 months. It's an HTML5 interface. We no longer have an excuse to keep up the green screen. We really need to move on. Let us help you build that plan to move on. It is the new generation UI. It is everything that you want. Now, you've seen a lot of these screens in the past. In the last couple of years, you've seen some of these things, but this is now bringing it to the point that all those updates, and the number one thing people were waiting on was the ability to do lists, subsets, sorts, etc. inside of Netlink. It's all here. Now, some of these more advanced screens are using Ion. Like I said, it only gets more powerful with Ion. I'm talking about what you can do on the iSeries in Netlink today. So it handles all of the IDF functions, the related cards, all the things that you want to do. It has a direct to Excel download. No longer going through the memory of your PC and all that kind of stuff. You go directly to any well, I said Excel, any spreadsheet directly from the IDF. So it is very nice and very quick to be able to move through those processes. And here's my example, a direct export to Excel. So that is something people have been waiting on for a while. And then with System Link, of course, you can upload from Excel. That takes some setup, but once it's set up, it's there permanent for whatever business need you have. So just some quick examples, and Carlos is going to show these to you themselves, but this is all Netlink. Notice the Customize button is now on the screen. I can customize my views, my subsets, my sorts. I am just going to touch on 3 or 4 screens here, and we're not going to have time to go through all the capabilities. This is a powerful tool. Even Carlos is excited, and those of you who knows Carlos understand that that doesn't always happen. He really likes what this is. He'll talk to you about it personally in a minute. So we have all the views, subset, sorts capability, plus new capability you cannot do in Java or PowerLink. So to be able to, this is something that I relate to Excel, but it's more of a standard function, but to be able to filter in place, bring up a filter line across the top. And this little button on to the left allows you to do equal, does not equal, you can read the screen, contains, all those kinds of things. So think of any list window. You can filter now on the fly and get that information. And if you hit the right mouse button or hit the display button on top, you get all the display and subset criteria that you had for columns that you're used to seeing, now all built into Netlink. And just as a teaser, 2 quick slides, we need to get here because we're moving on to release 11, the largest release in XA's history. It's a rewrite of all inventory transactions, all of them. So right now, under present systems, many inventory transactions are written multiple times. They're written in inventory management, in PM&C, in PowerLink, and PPS is written in COM. And there's some of these inventory transactions are written as many as 5 times, which has made it next to impossible for Infor to add a lot of the new capabilities that you have been asking for. With release 11, not only is it a complete rewrite, but 30 or 40 of those enhancements are going to be included in release 11, and they're going to continue adding on beyond that. Now, there's also going to be new applications, enterprise, PM&C. But with that, we're finally going to eliminate the things that are slowing us down and holding us back. This is not a complete list, but no, the functionality you're used to using from the green screen is going to be going away. We need to be in EPDM. We need to be in enterprise financials. If we're still using KBC as a green screen product, there still are a few people out there using it. Intersite logistics, multi-site environment ISL, those are replaced by material logistics. All the offline loads are going away, although there might be a couple things sticking around. I know that COM and a couple other areas they're considering keeping. All those final decisions aren't there yet, but those are heavily used by a lot of programs. So they may be keeping some of those for a while, but all of those capabilities now are replaced with System Link. And to throw in toot our little own our horn here, if you haven't seen the System Link toolkit from Guide, it makes it very easy to use. You can upload and download direct to Excel into your database. So this is not something you want to wait until next year or the year after and say, oh, geez, I should start looking at getting ready for release 11. This is a plan you need to be putting together now. Like I said, all XA material transactions are being rewritten. Over 50 enhancements. Those are the things that I was just talking about. And finally, for release 11, then I'm going to move on. Here's just a quick list of some of the things that you're going to see. We've been waiting for PPS to be rewritten for a long time, pick, pack, and ship. And it is going to be part of a scheduled issues capability. Very strong, very powerful. Every inventory transaction will be basically a BOD, an XML transaction that you can do either from inside the system or from outside the system. So for those of you that have always written and improved in ways of doing inventory transactions, you won't have to modify anything anymore. You can just submit the transactions from anywhere. So that's my quick overview, my quick getting started. I'm going to let Carlos show you release 10. I'll come back and touch on a couple things when we're all finished, but this is where you really want to go to be able to see what is what's happening with release 10. So Carlos, I will turn that over to you.
Hey, hello everyone. I'm going to flip around on a few different screens here and bring you up to speed on some of the great changes that they're coming out with release 10. So everybody's already seen this screen and you don't need to see our faces ever again. But back in 2016, I started doing an IDF performance presentation for a lot of different customers. So this is going back in history about 5 years. And although even at that time, the Infor was asking us to start promoting Netlink as a way of replacing heavy architecture, it really wasn't something that I felt was ready for prime time. So when I did my presentation back then, I didn't make a single mention about Netlink. Well, during that conference, they also came out with a Release 9 suite in 2016 that actually started opening up some of the features of available to us in Netlink. So the following year, I included something in our presentation that basically said, give it a try. It really still wasn't ready for prime time, but you could at least get some speed components. You couldn't do any tailoring. And there was really nothing that most users really cared for about that process. So some users that had some remote capability that needed to be replaced and they had minimal use for it did switch over to Netlink, but just wasn't adhered to or taken care of a lot of the business needs that were out there. So now I'm going to fast forward to where we are today. And this is really important. While they are providing us the capability of customizing views, subsets, and cards, and resizing list columns, and doing things that you can do in PowerLink, they have begun to make enhancements in Netlink that we will never see in PowerLink. And that to me is a statement of direction. They are going to do things from this point on in Netlink that will never reach the Java client. And that is to me, that is where we are going with this product. Everything in the future is going to be HTML5. So the sooner we can start pulling people over into the new Netlink capability, the more that you are going to see them build the techniques and capabilities that everybody wants. And because it is HTML5, the linking of information from disparate systems is going to become that much easier. So this is really huge. But even before we get to release 10, they have been adding a ton of functionality under the 922 umbrella, which is really rounding out the capabilities of Netlink. So even though they're giving us a whole new front end to allow us to do things, they've been doing things with existing business objects that really are making this product useful. So one of the things that most people do not know about when they get to the Netlink application is that there is, under the applications card, a way to tailor how Netlink looks. So you can tell the system to put tabs at the top or the left. You can specify whether you want a icon or just a monotone type of button, so it's not going to take up quite as many graphics. You can show just your standard actions or all toolbar actions. In other words, you can start beginning to see how they are going to start customizing Netlink. And over time, this is going to be improved as well and give you more and more functionality as far as how your Netlink presentation is going to look. So those areas that we're looking at, which are 5 configurable areas, basically affect what it looks like from the navigation at the top, where the tabs go, what the standard actions are, where the toolbars are going to be, and what icons you're going to have. And in my version, when I take a look at mine, I put the tabs to the left so that way they're not along the top. And instead of having just the standard actions, I put all, so I've got a lot more buttons along the top that I can select from. So now I'm actually going to take us in through a demo of just showing you how some of this is all set up. So I'm going to be using the standard Netlink interface, and I'm just going to go into materials management and open up the item warehouse. And I'm communicating right now from my home over Wi-Fi, and I'm connected to a system that's in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's not a Power 9 with 50 processors on it. This is a pretty small machine, but as you can see, the screens resolve pretty quickly. So from a speed standpoint, this is what you get with the graphical interface. So it's pretty cool the way it works. So I'm going to go back to item warehouses, and the first thing you're going to notice is that there's a button over here that is called a grid setting. And so I can go through and click on the show filter rows. And what happens is it provides you with filtering that you can put in here at any point in time. If you look at what the filters are, this A value means contains, equal, of course, is equal. So depending on whether it comes up as a text field or a numeric field, typically it will have the same capability, but you can always change it to be a different value. So just by entering a value in here allows you to sort down into information very quickly. The other option is, of course, the export feature. So I'm going to export to a spreadsheet, but you're able to export to HTML, text, in different values such as JSON. What it does, it creates an ODS file. And that ODS file basically is nothing more than an opening of that same information, and you get that right inside of a spreadsheet. It's very slick, it's very quick. Very useful. And it's also, if I take a look at the release 9.2.2 before release 10, when I tried to do an export, it would allow me to do about 300 rows and die. Now it will take as many rows as you've got selected in your subset, and so no problems there. I'm going to step you through now the customized features. So I'm going to take the same view, and once again, you've got basically the capability of doing an apply of something that's been changed. You got a way of creating it, changing it, deleting it, making it a favorite. I'm going to go ahead and take the default view or general view. I'm just going to highlight this once and go into change. And here is the view that's what's selected, and all I do is click on the available attributes. I can click on a field that I want to add. It gives me the way I want to represent it over here, which can be manipulated. It's added that field to the bottom. I am now going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to make it a save as and give this a new name. So just put in general CV here. Apply this, and automatically that character 10 field will appear in this column right here, the 10 character value. So automatically it's got this new subset called general CV. I just made the change. You saw how easy that was. Once again, full security on all this stuff. You can actually go through and take the information, make sure that it's private, that only users that have private capability can create private views, cards, subsets. It all works exactly the same. It's got all the same capability they have in PowerLink, but now you're doing it all in HTML5 under the Netlink umbrella. One of the other things that they provided that they do not provide is, now I'm going to go back into this view. And this was CV right here. I'm going to go through and say change it. It has information associated when you last maintained it. So it's going to give you information related to maintenance history. If this were a card file, and that card, or I should say a card, and that card file is used in many different places, you can find out where all it's used. And then the last person that used it is going to start appearing over here as well. So if you have to do analysis, say if anyone's using it, if nothing is here, that means that something you've created has never been used. But you've got full maintenance history. This will actually grow every time you change it. And then you've got a place of looking for it and finding where it's used. So very powerful as far as how they've set this up. None of this is available to you in PowerLink. So going back a step now, I'm going to take you back to my PowerPoint, because there is one last thing that is right now available to us, but you have to have Mingle installed. So it's going to work under the Siwa umbrella in Mingle, utilizing Netlink, and I'm going to show you just what that is. So let me go back to... So everybody is very aware of the capabilities that you have to utilize workbenches and be able to have a controlling window that provides you with information from a lot of different business objects. And this is something that everybody really wants to have as part of this final Netlink solution. And one of the reasons why it's so great is because it's so easy to grab something and then broadcast it and have a receive of a different business object to go through and basically change information as you are clicking through records. Some of the disadvantages of this product is, of course, you might have people that have different screens or resolutions, and it never maps over quite properly, and it's really only available for PowerLink. So once again, workbenches are great, but to really optimize it for HTML5, you really want to start thinking about how you're going to redesign your screen. So in some cases, you may want to build overviews that are part of a related object, or in other cases, you want to make them information that will carry across in a content window, which is those graphs and other boxes that you see at the bottom, or I should say in this image right here over to the right. And what they have provided for you is a context app default cards that you can have by business object. So in the case of the item warehouse, I have selected certain things, and I did this first of all in PowerLink. This is available for every single business object out there. It'll have a Netlink context app default card, and if I actually pull that same object and look at the preferences, it's got what it calls the Mingle context app cards, but it'll have the same names that were a part of what you had in PowerLink shown here, and you can manipulate those context cards even in Netlink. So let me switch over to a session that is actually running Mingle. And the session that is running Mingle, I've got this utilizing the same interface that Rick was showing you, which is the the Siwa version, or System I Workspace Anywhere. And what I'm going to do is open this up and go to the item warehouse. And when I go into the item warehouse and I start clicking on this information over here, it's automatically refreshing one of the boxes, or I've got 3 boxes actually set up, and it's displaying information differently every time I click on something. So that is how Infor has built the capability of replacing workbenches. So there is going to be a requirement for utilizing that, which will require that you have Siwa or System I Workspace Anywhere in conjunction with Mingle to make content cards work. So please be aware that it's not a part of Release 10 to give you workbenches. It is a part of Release 10 if you are going to utilize content application cards and Mingle combined. And on that note, I'm going to turn this back over to Rick.
All right, Carlos, just to throw in a comment there so everybody understands that the Infor is not wanting to bring over workbenches. It wasn't their call. When in Java, it's more powerful. Right now, to use the browser standard on the internet, whether you're talking about any of them, Chrome or Internet Explorer or any of them, the capability of doing workbenches simply doesn't exist in that technology. So Infor has really developed a good way of tying in new list cards. There's a new type of list card that allows you to put a list down the left-hand side, open up a compound card next to it, and then open up the in-context cards next to that. So you really do have workbenches, but you have to redevelop how they're established so it works in that technology. So with that being said, I just want to then move on here to close out some other things about Release 10. I'm going to touch on a little bit of Infor OS. Now, Carlos was just showing it to you. As far as Ion, to be able to use the in-context cards and things like that. For those of us that have been on the IBM for years, and there's many of us that have, and maybe some of us on the phone line are relatively new to it, one of the most stable and secure platforms in the world. Absolutely no doubt about that. So it is really something that we are very proud of. However, there's a lot of things written for networks, a lot of things written outside of the I series that we have not had access to, which has been a limiting function. And what we're going to be able to do now is integrate the I series into those other tools. What Infor Operating Services is, now this is an add-on product, you have to buy it. But I want to make sure you understand that when you're looking at the pancake stack, the technology stack from Infor, I'm sure several of you have seen this before, but right here in the middle is XA, along with all the other ERPs and things like that. What Infor is doing is they're creating Infor Operating Services as a platform that they want every one of their customers on. They don't want to have to write workflow for 12 different ERPs and document management for all those different systems and a number of those other tools, business intelligence. They are certain tools that can work with any ERP. So what they've done is they've built that into iOS, Infor Operating Services. Your ERP sits on top of that. Then on top of that, you're going to get into the cloud capability, Internet of Things, connected networks, supplier exchange, supplier portals, customer portals. Then you're going to get into business intelligence and finally artificial intelligence. These suite of products, I could spend an hour just on this slide. This suite of products is very powerful when it comes to the direction of Infor. And because it is technology independent, it uses HTML, it uses XML, it opens up the world, that connectivity that Carlos just talked about, to XA. So this is really powerful, and it really will allow you to tie in all of the functions of your business, not just the things that are running on the iSeries, into all of your suite of applications. So what is Infor Operating Services? Well, this is the beginning of it here, but these are applications that you get as a part of that foundation. Notice document management is here. Artificial intelligence is here. There are a number of different tools. Here's that mingle function that we were talking about, what had the in-context business intelligence and things like that. As they are adding to this, that's a part of the XA suite. Now, these are software applications that are a part of it. There are functions that are built into it too. So for instance, workflows, a very powerful workflow system. We've seen a lot of workflows through the years, and a lot of you may even be running PC or network workflows. This is a very powerful workflow function. It's simply built into iOS. It's all there. And the homepage capability, that's the Siwa that I was talking about, except the next step up to be able to bring all those functions together. Here's the in-context applications. These are all simply a part of what iOS is designed to have. So inside of XA, where we're used to dealing with the XA applications, that's fine. Now through Infor Operating Services, we come in through Ion, it opens up the entire world to what we can do, including, notice down here, those other dirty names of those other companies that we can now tie into. Not an issue. There are many of you that may, you buy companies, you buy plants, you sell plants, maybe corporate is running SAP over in Germany somewhere, you're reporting financials back to them. There's always been ways of making that work, but now it's a native part of what we're trying to do. We can simply integrate those tools. If they can talk on the internet, we can talk on the internet. So here's that picture that Carlos was just showing you. This happens to be an item list. And here's an example here where I selected the first item, which was an MP3 player. It brought up the cost of the MP3 player. Notice there's all sorts of additional in-context business intelligence. This scroll bar, Carlos showed you 3 examples with 3 windows. You can put as many over here as you want. But this up here is document management. This is huge. It's fully integrated now. It is simply, this document came up because I highlighted this line item. There are 4 documents associated with that line item. So it's built into your screen. So we're not just using that in-context stuff for XA workbenches. We're using it to tie in your entire network. If you want to bring in documents, if you want to bring in workflows, if you want to bring in engineering drawings, if you want to bring in pictures of what your product is, you can integrate all those functions and bring them in over here. It's actually very much more powerful than just the workbench, which is limited inside of your XA system. Of course, with all this technology, we're not limited to the iSeries anymore. So whether you've got pads, whether you've got phones, whether you've got, watches, you can get those workflow alerts. You can get, now, obviously you're limited in territory, acreage of how much you can see on a screen. When you get down to a watch, you're basically looking at a short message. But relative to the size of your screen, this is something that HTML5 does. It automatically resizes based on the technology you're on. Again, something Carlos had mentioned, when you did a workbench before and all of a sudden you went to a different size screen, or you tried to send it to somebody else so that they could use your workbench, all of a sudden the windows got all screwed up because they were locked into the size of your screen where you developed it. HTML5 doesn't have that limitation. So it's really the tool of the future. With that being said, I want to re-emphasize to you again how important it is for you to have a plan. If you haven't talked to us lately, call us. Call your account executive. If you're outside of the Guide family, and we have people all across the country on this webinar, feel free to give me a call. I'm there on the bottom. If you are registered for this, you will get a copy of this presentation so you can look it up. You might be scribbling down numbers or something right now. But let's talk about a plan. It doesn't cost anything to say, okay, hey, look, I'm on release, 7.8. I'm on release 9.1. What do I need to do to get there? I'm still running accounting management, or I'm on IFM. Man, I really want to get to business intelligence. How do I use the IDF to build my burst database? All those things are things that we can help you with. Technology is going to change. Now, to make you feel a little bit more comfortable, when release 11 comes out next year and green screen goes away, you're not forced to go to that. Now, I'm not encouraging what I'm about to tell you, but I don't want you to leave here scared either. Infor has a policy. When you change that first number of a release, so you go from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, that previous release is going to be supported for 7 years. So if you end up on release 10 and you don't want to go to release 11 when it comes out next year, release 10 is still going to be supported. But the only reason you don't want to go to release 11 is because you have your own customized code, or you're doing something that's holding you back. Let's put a plan together to move it forward. Get into the technology. Nobody goes back to green screen once they're off. I know you've all heard it. I don't want it. Green screen's faster. I like those screens. Nobody that you hire walks into your business, sees a green screen and says, wow, this is cool. It just doesn't happen that way. Once you force the learning curve into Netlink, after 30 days, you won't go back. It is really a better interface. So I want you to keep that plan in mind. I want you to call your account executive. I want you to call me. I will work with your affiliate if you're not a Guide customer. Let's just help you guys get current and take all the advantages of what's going to be coming out in XA for a couple of years. So Brad, with that, we're 45 minutes in. We have time for some questions. I'll turn it back to you to manage that.
Yeah, there are half a dozen questions in the Q&A box. I'll kind of read them off, and then either Rick or Carlos, if you could chime in. And I think the first 2 or 3 have to do with the release 11 and the EPM&C rewrite. Does that include quality transactions like PQ?
It is not yet fully defined.
Okay.
My understanding is that yes, it will be a complete replacement of all PM&C functions and all transactions. Now, what you really need to think about is with release 11 and the rewrite of all the inventory transactions, you might not want to send inventory transactions through TR data anyway. It's a better option. It's interactive if you can use the XML capability of all those inventory transactions in release 11 and bypass TR data. So it posts immediately and you don't have to go through all that balancing. Let TR data be the place when I have to balance a clock on and a clock off and calculate time. Inventory might not be the way to go. So I don't have a specific answer. Release 11 is still being designed. The inventory transactions are being rewritten right now, but all of that new function is still up in the air and being finalized.
Okay. Next question, does EPM&C include job on and job off transactions?
That is the plan, yes.
Okay. And will it include TAs as well?
Again, that's the plan.
Okay.
I'm not, anytime you're talking about something over a year and away, everybody, I'm not trying to be political here. It's still being designed, it's still being processed, but it's supposed to be a complete replacement for the existing green screen PM&C.
Okay.
So we'll handle all those.
Let's see. There was another one that Carlos answered online, but I'll just kind of read the question. Other people might have similar thoughts. The workbench replacement, one would need to access Mingle for workbenches and Netlink for everything else. Just wanted to make sure she understood the what Carlos was stating. And Carlos's response was, Mingle is the portal that will support how Siwa is presented, and the context apps in Mingle are used to show Netlink views and cards that are related to a business object. Next question, Mingle and Siwa run on Windows platform, question mark.
Yes.
Yes. Last question so far, do you have to be on enterprise financials before moving to release 11?
Well, the plan is that no green screen functions are moving to release 11. So the answer is yes. Now, again, release 11 is not finalized. I keep covering myself there. But as of this point, IFM and accounting management will not be going to release 11.
Yeah, that is all of the questions I have so far. We'll give everybody another minute or so to ask another question through either the chat or the question box.
Yeah, while we're waiting to see if there's any more questions that pop up, I have been asked a question that has not been asked here. Why should I go to release 10 over release 9.2.2? And the answer is that if you are not using Netlink, whether you go to 9.2.2 or release 10, all the client applications and green screen applications all work the same. So from a foundational standpoint, it makes no difference if you are on 9.2.2 or R10. So because there is no advantage from those areas, going to release 10 is basically a no-brainer. For those folks that do use Netlink, R10 is absolutely where you want to go. And for those folks that are considering going to Netlink in certain areas, it is absolutely the right place to go. So we at Guide are recommending that any projects that start now will be, any upgrade projects, will be ending up as a release 10 type of install.
Carlos, that's a really good point. And just to add on to that, you're correct at 9.2.2 and when release 10 comes out, they're going to be equal. But 9.2.2 is only going to have fix support at that point. New development, new capabilities are going to be added into release 10 that will make them unequal over time. Release 10 is going to get the improvements. 9.2.2 will not. It will stay stagnant except for program fixes.
Two more questions. Does Siwa allow for multiple environments to be opened?
Yeah, we responded to that up above.
Okay.
Without Mingle, so here's a scenario. There's a couple of different options here. If you've got Siwa and you're not running Mingle, the way that you can actually have multiple environments open is to actually run something on different browsers. Right now, both Edge and Chrome work pretty well with Siwa, so you know, we haven't had any issues. So, you know, having a browser that's set up for Siwa as a Chrome and another one set up as Edge will allow you to enter multiple or open up multiple environments on your desktop, but you'd have to switch between browsers. If you have Mingle, Mingle provides you a hamburger at the top of the screen that allows you to click on an icon that what might say environment BA and then another environment BB, and you just click on the different environments, and because of the single sign-on aspect, it just switches you from one to the other. So it's a lot cleaner interface when you're using Mingle.
Another related question to that, are there any issues with different browsers, thinking especially of Microsoft Edge versus the new Edge?
The Edge or new Edge, I've actually run it on both, aren't an issue. I have not tested this beyond Chrome and Edge browsers though, so I haven't used Internet Explorer, which is outdated. I have not used Firefox. I haven't used a lot of different browsers out there, so I can't answer for those.
Okay.
Infor's testing different browsers also, and they will probably be a better source of that answer.
Here's another question. The capabilities we have in PowerLink, will we have them in Netlink? And then the second part of that, anything new will be in Netlink, but not added to PowerLink once release 10 is out. Is that correct?
Close.
Mm-hmm.
As they are developing new capabilities in IDF, IDF generates both PowerLink and Netlink. Where there is a difference in technology, they are going to develop it around Netlink, and PowerLink may not get it. But where the technology is supported by both, you still may get some enhancements into PowerLink. The bottom line is, though, Netlink is the go-forward user application, the preferred application of Infor, starting at release 10. And the first part of your question, yes, I don't know of anything now that Netlink can't do, and in fact, Netlink can do more than PowerLink. We just have to change how we're handling workbenches. That's the one area that's a different technology that's forcing us to change.
A couple more questions. Does Enterprise Integrator get moved to Netlink as well? And Carlos said not yet. One more question.
Enterprise Integrator is a development tool, and I think that Java gives us some tools that we can't do in a browser. So there are going to be some functions there that will remain in PowerLink at the IT level.
Mm-hmm. Next question: do you have to be on EPDM and or eFinancials before release 10?
No.
No.
Those are independent implementations.
Yeah.
If you're running release 9, you can go to release 10 right now, running what you're running on release 10.
Another question: are local user action programs supported in Netlink?
I have not tested this specifically, but this would be where you might have like an EXE type of Windows program that executes. And I believe that you have to establish those with a slightly different URL to access the proper location. And sometimes it requires some DNS support as well. But I have not tested this, so that one is something that I do plan to test. Good question. I like that one.
Okay, let's see. What happens to custom cards, primary files, etc.?
We're talking like cards that you've already built. Those can all be transferred over without a problem.
Okay.
If you have a card right now in PowerLink, it's a part of Netlink. They share those resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any custom files that you've integrated within Integrator that become part of the IDF technology, those get pulled over. Not a problem.
Okay, good. Let's see. Yep. That is all the questions we have. Some great questions. They're really, some release 11 questions, a lot of Netlink, Siwa questions, some enterprise integrator questions. So very, very good, comprehensive questions. That is all we have for today. Those are the last of the questions. So again, I want to thank everybody for your time and interest today. And I guess I think the overall message is that we are very, very close to the release 10 release, which will have all this great function that you saw today. But you probably need to have a good plan in place to get to at least to release 10 as soon as possible to take advantage of these capabilities. So get with your partner, get with your rep, get with somebody from Guide, just to make sure you have a good understanding of how you're going to get from where you're at to release 10. With that, I thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.